first date. I wish I was joking. He showed up to my house 3 hours later and stood outside my door for an hour and a half, trying to coerce my roommate to let him in, saying he'd forgotten something inside. Now, she didn't, as I was asleep and she thought it was dodgy. I never told him where I lived. Oh my God, how does he even know that? That is so creepy. That's a great roommate right there. He tried to correct me on the pronunciation of my own last name. How? That's ridiculous. A guy got mad that I walked on the other side of a tree from the side he walked on. Like, we were walking down the sidewalk, a tree was in the way, he went to the left of it, and I went to the right of it. He was mad I didn't go left with him. I asked why he didn't come to the right with me if it was so important that we'd be on the same side. He didn't like that response, and I ended the date briefly thereafter. Wow. Why? For me, it was when she mentioned that she was not single, but did in fact have a husband. But it's okay, because he's been in jail for about 5 years and won't be released for at least 6 months. Oh no. What happens in 6 months' time, dude? That's a big problem. Her car was full of garbage up to the windows. I mean, look, I know some people don't like leaving their car in the best condition, but up to the windows? Christ. Cancelling the date to go out on a date with someone else to the same location. My question is, how do you know it was the same location? Please tell me you were there and you saw them on the date. That would be insane. A guy refused to pass through a door because I was holding it for him and got mad because I was making him look bad in front of other people. That is so cringy. And ultimately, it's quite sexist. Already drunk when I got there. Had a bag of possessions with him because he'd just been released from the hospital and had taken the bus there. Finished the last 2 inches of my beer, wanted a ride to the place he was house sitting. The best part was saying he thought we really hit it off and could see us moving in together in a few months if everything went well. I think he was just looking for a house, I'll be honest. The use of the word RE. Now guys, this is censored for obvious reasons, I'm sure you can work out what it is. A guy once guided me away from everyone else at the party we were attending. Brought me out to a dark, isolated dock hanging over a deep lake, and while we were sitting on it with our feet hanging over, wrapped his arm around my neck, leaned over and said, "I'm feeling a little RE." I booked it the F back to the house, told one of his female friends, I knew literally nobody at this party, and thank God she recognised the severity of the situation and took me straight home. My first date in 6 years after getting out of a long-term relationship. Asked what she did for a living, and she simply dismissed it and didn't tell me. Now, I thought that was strange, but I didn't think much of it. I wasn't super confident, but I felt the date was going great. We spent the night together, but she left before I woke up the next morning. She forgot her watch and asked me to stop by her work to return it. It turns out that she was a co-worker of my ex-girlfriend, and they hate each other. Yeah, that is not worth it. I once went on a date with a man who told me that he'd battered his previous girlfriend. Sorry, what? He seemed to feel sort of bad about it, but also told me that she made him hit her, so it wasn't really all his fault. I didn't see him again. It isn't a red flag, that's a lawsuit and a prison sentence. What? I mean, genuinely, the craziest part about that is the fact that he doesn't even blame himself for it. What is that? Made fun of me for putting on my seatbelt, proceeded to do donuts in the mall parking lot. This guy's definitely dead, sorry. At the risk of outing myself, I was the one who showed the red flag. I took a girl on a date and completely forgot her name to the point where I had to eventually ask her. We never spoke again after that. Really? How do you forget someone's name? That's the one thing you gotta remember. Then also, surely you've got her name or her number or something saved on your phone, or you can ask a friend or something. Oh, don't ask her. Whatever you do, play it cool and then find out later. Not mine, but I had to pick up my friend from the side of the road because her date picked her up, then pulled over on the side of the freeway to see what was in the forest. Oh my god, she got out of there and never heard from him again. That is just terrifying. I went on a date with a young captain in the army. He invited me out to dinner, which actually was just wings at the bar with like 10 other army guys he knew. Now, that's not necessarily bad, but it struck me as strange because I was the only girl in the group. I'd normally have expected at least some of the other guys to bring their SOs, but no biggie. As the night went on, the table conversation went into lewd territory. Now, I can hold my own with rowdy dudes and I'm pretty easygoing, but it turned out he procured me for a G-bang. Specifically, he said they would make me famous in a prono. I was so freaking furious I couldn't even speak. I just noped right out, and that's why I take my own car and don't drink on a first date. To be fair, I don't blame you at all, OP. It is a real shame that some men have done this to you to the extent that you now cannot enjoy alcohol on a first time meeting someone. That is a shame. She tried to get me blackout drunk after inviting me over to her place. After a few beers and shots, thinking I was tanked, she left me alone with her extremely touchy gay roommate. I noped the F out of there as soon as I could get his hands off me. I made sure everyone in our immediate circle knew what happened, and ended up that this wasn't the first time they've pulled this with a guy. We found out about at least one of our male friends that they'd succeeded with, who hid it from everyone due to the whole stigma of a guy can't be R'd BS. But we convinced him to go to the cops eventually. She was charged with coercion, and her roommate was charged with R. Well done. You speaking out got someone arrested and put in prison. Brilliant. I didn't know it was a date. I'd gone to happy hour with another department in the company, and 2 weeks later, one woman from there said they were doing another one and asked if I'd like to go. I showed up and it was just her roommate, and her roommate's boyfriend, and they had a table for 4 in the restaurant area of a sports bar. She told me that everyone else was running late, so they got a table to get a bit to eat first. Now, I thought that was odd, but then the roommate mentioned something about it being their first double date. Nobody else from work showed up. Why didn't you just say it was a date in the first place? Like, I'd go on a double date, that's not a big issue. Don't lie about it though. This guy kept pushing me to let him come to my place, to the point where every sentence was like, will you let me come over, and where can I sleep tonight with you, where do you live, let's go to your place after this. I was like, guy, you're never coming to my house. And he kept pushing it, and I started to feel the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. I got out of there and drove around to make sure he wasn't following me before I went home. He messaged me after like, I just wanted to see if you'd cave and let me come over. What? You weirdo. I messaged back like, you're a creepy effer, and blocked him. Then he kept trying to match with me again, and even got my email before I finally got rid of him. Weirdo. Not just a weirdo. Deranged. That's so strange. Not taking their eyes off their phone at the table. I mean, why even bother going on a date if you're going to spend the evening on social media? That, honestly, would be one of the biggest red flags that I could possibly experience on a first. I'd be out of there. If somebody is more interested in their phone than on me, then what's the point? I'm gone. Went out with a guy I met on Match on a Saturday night. I knew he was a widower, and during the date, I asked him when his wife had passed. He said, Monday. Maybe he needed a date for the funeral. Wow. A guy told me he loved me and that he wanted to pay off my college debt. I still wish I'd said yes, but he creeped me out so bad, I noped the F out of there as soon as I felt able to. He was trying to hand feed me olives about 10 minutes into the day, and I wanted to run away so bad. Here's a question, right? What would you do for your... This is a pretty weird question, I'll be honest, but hey, comment down below. What would you do to have your college debt wiped instantly? Would you let someone hand feed you olives? Because I know I would. This was a second date, but whatever. Still the biggest red flag I've ever seen. She came over to hang, had a hard time finding my place. Well, I live in an apartment complex that doesn't have handicap parking. There's an old man in our building, Navy veteran who has Parkinson's. He doesn't walk too well, and we as a community have decided to leave the closest spot open for him. She had a hard time finding the place, so I walked out so I could wave her down. She sees me and then starts to pull into that parking spot that's kept for the elderly Navy veteran who has Parkinson's. I tell her, don't park there, and explain the situation to her. Her response was, I don't see how that's my problem. She did not get a third date. Good. It's pretty impressive how she could say one sentence and just totally give up any chance she had with you. Fair play to her. She had a litter box with a great pyramid of cat poop in it. The smell punched me in the face. I immediately turned around and got in my car. Now look, I've got a cat too, but I take care of her. That is just nasty. Her poor cat, staring at my chest and saying, I can't believe they're all mine. Bye. Okay, I'll be honest, that part of this video, a lot of this video has been weird. That is possibly the weirdest thing I've ever heard. But sorry, what is that? Partway through the date, I mentioned that I worked a job while going to college. We met in a shared class. She told me she couldn't respect me for working while going to school. It showed I was poor and implied I was beneath her. And that shows that you are entitled. Went on a first date after hitting it off with her on a night out. Within the first hour, she told me she was highly judgmental and high maintenance. Yeah, sure, bonus points for honesty, but no thanks. Genuinely, at least she's honest with it. I don't actually mind that. Like, genuinely, someone saying that to me, I think I would have been tempted to just see them again and just see, exactly how high maintenance and how judgmental you can be. Tinder. Her profile said 24. I was 25. She turned out to be 17. That is why, IDs should be mandatory for some of these platforms. That is so dangerous. Imagine she never said her real age. Jesus. When I asked what she was looking for in a partner, she answered with codependency. I said I think that being in a relationship should be like a chocolate peanut butter cup, with both flavors, people, being good by themselves, but amplified by being together. She said that didn't make sense.